What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast and I'm finally back with a regular video. I know it has been a few days since my last regular upload as I've been a bit ill and trying to do my high energy shoutcasting voice with a sore throat isn't the best combination, but over the past few days I have streamed a few times as well as released some new music. So if you didn't know, any of the songs that you hear in the background of my videos or my live streams have been produced by myself, so definitely go ahead and check that out if you are interested in house music. But anyways, in this video we're in the Catch Cup and it's quite a limited meta. I don't have too many options and I basically have 0 Stardust after building the Shadow Landorus for this video, but I can actually say that in this meta, it is genuinely pretty strong and I gained around 100 elo in 4 sets. Now if you think about the new releases and Community Day Pokemon from this season, it beats Tinkaton, Oinkologne, Orthworm and plenty of other very common picks that you're likely to see in the Catch Cup. This is however a very glassy team, so you're gonna need to be on the top of your game to pick up any wins with it, and that's where today's video sponsor, Fuel comes in. Fuel is an energy drink aimed specifically towards gamers and is designed to help improve your energy levels, focus, endurance, and reaction time, which will all help to improve your overall performance when battling in the Go Battle League. Right now, there is a buy one get one free sale as part of their anime promotion, featuring plenty of anime-inspired flavors, including the Naruto Sage mode, or the Dragon Ball Z Candy Bean flavor. Now, it is a bit of a shame that there's no sort of Fuel X Pokemon collaboration just yet, but who knows, maybe that is in the works for the future. Anyways, if you don't care all that much about the anime flavors, there are still plenty of other options featured in the buy one get one free set, including some of my personal favorites in Miami Nights and also Watermelon. Now, just so you know, the usual 30% off that you will get with the creator code Callum unfortunately will not stack with the buy one get one free set. However, you can still support me by using the link in the description or in the pinned comment of this video, as I will still receive a percentage commission from your order. Anyways, with that being said, let's finally get into the question of the day. What has been your favorite Pokemon to use in the Go Battle League that you've built this season? This doesn't have to be specifically in the Catch Cup, you could have used it elsewhere, you just had to build it this season. Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Heliolisk into Shadow Hydreigon. This is not a great matchup for me. I'm actually going to swap out straight away into my Fairy-type Pokemon, which surprisingly doesn't have the best matchup as both Astonish and Seed Bomb are resisted, and they've got access to Fly, which is super effective. They then grab a Shield Advantage and then swap into Licky, where of course Astonish is double resisted. However, Moonblast does big damage, and the opponent massively over-farming. They throw on CMP, they lose CMP, and Seed Bomb able to grab a shield back from the opponent. I'm definitely not going to bother shielding here. The opponent goes for Shadow Ball. That doesn't quite get the KO, so instead of allowing a full farm down and swapping into Heliolisk, Body Slam is going to deal quite a lot of damage, but now we can Volt Switch farm them down, and we're just one away from a Bulldoze. Now, Bulldoze isn't the strongest move, however, Shadow on Shadow, it is going to grab the final shield, but they can Dragon Breath farm me all the way down. Now, they do have quite a lot of energy here. We're going to come in with our Shadow Landorus, and I'm actually able to swap and make the perfect catch there. The opponent over-farming. They throw just before I do reach a charge move there, but now we can over-farm a little bit ourselves. Fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide gets the KO, but their final Pokemon is a Jellicent. Now, Earth Power is a pretty decent move from Shadow Landorus. It will hit very hard. However, I think my win condition is landing back-to-back Rock Slides, but it's just going to depend. Can I live one more Hex worth of damage? The answer is yes, just barely. With 1 HP and a Dream, Rock Slide takes out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG stop on there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a much better lead matchup for the Heliolisk, and the opponent's going to be safe swapping into Fortress. Now here, I tried to catch a Sand Tomb onto my Landorus. It does not work out for me, as the opponent can now fire off a Rock Tomb. Now, I would live a single Rock Tomb, however, despite the fact that I am resisting the Volt Switch damage, eventually that will put me into farm down range. So here, I full send the Earth Power, and unfortunately, that just narrowly does not get the KO. So potentially, should have thrown on CMP if I knew the damage output there. Either way, that was just really unfortunate for me, but now of course we're giving quite a decent farm down to the opponent, and I don't want that, so I'm actually going to swap back into my Heliolisk. I'm hoping that they don't have a really hard answer in the back, and unfortunately they do have a Mud Slapper. However, this is just the Oinkologne. Oinkologne is not a ground type Pokemon, meaning I can threaten shields with a Bulldoze and a Parabolic Charge. I'm actually able to grab both shields from the opponent. However, we're still not in the best position, whilst yes, Shinotic is going to resist the Mud Slap damage and potentially Trailblaze if they want to throw it. We have no fast move pressure whatsoever. But they go for the Trailblaze first, which is quite surprising. I guess Body Slam is now going to deal more damage. However, they still need to throw another charge move. They swap back into Corviknight, but I'm able to swap out, catch the Air Cutter. That is huge for me because now, Astonish, we can go for a full farm down. We come out with a Moonblast loaded, and Moonblast from Shadow Shiinotic will be enough damage to take out the Oink alone. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see a Shadow Fortress in the lead this time around. So, this time around, am I going to try and make a catch? The answer is no. Instead, I'm actually opting for the extra Volt Switch here, and then I will look to overfarm. They fire off the Sand Tomb. They then swap out into their Hypno, so I'm now just going to come in with my Shiinotic. I'm actually going to double shield really early in this battle. That seems quite questionable from me. However, I realize now Seed Bomb will put them into Astonish farm down range. And if they come back in with the Fortress, which they are likely to do, whilst yes, they are going to resist the charge move damage, I'm also resisting the Volt Switches. They cannot Sand Tomb me either, which means they have to full send a Rock Tomb, meaning Moonblast able to grab a shield there. And now the opponent will throw some energy. The opponent is going to go for the Sand Tomb. They then swap out into a Seismitoad of all Pokemon. And unfortunately, they can outpace me to the charge move. However, it's just a Muddy Water, and that still does huge damage considering Muddy Water, one of the worst charge moves in the game. But I fire off the Earth Power on CMP, I win CMP, and now the opponent gonna go for an undercharge, but they undercharge way too much, which is gonna force them to throw some more energy. So that is gonna backfire on their end. However, Shiinotic is still incredibly low. We're one away from a Seed Bomb, but my only way of getting there is if the opponent puts themselves into perfect one Astonish farm down range where we avoid taking damage from the Volt Switch. We come out with the Seed Bomb loaded. Literally, that couldn't have gone more perfectly for me in the end game, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's over there into the next battle. I'm going to see Altaria in the lead. So, this is going to be a fairly neutral matchup here, of course. I am going to resist Sky Attack. However, of course, they're doing quite a lot of damage with the Dragon Breaths here. I'm going to go straight for Parabolic Charge. Parabolic Charge is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. And this is a CMP tie. So, it could be a Flamethrower. It is the Flamethrower. They are actually just going to stay in, allow a full farm down. And I really don't mind that. Then I'm going to come in with an Oink alone. I'm just going to go for another Parabolic Charge. And then I will swap out into my Landorus. Landorus, of course, going to double resist the Mud Slap damage here. I don't need to shield anything. Trailblaze or Body Slam both can hit for neutral damage. They will do quite a lot of damage here. You see, Landorus is not exactly a bulky Pokemon. However, we can now look to overfarm massively. The opponent is now at a Body Slam. However, if they want to preserve their Oink alone, they're going to have to double shield here. So Rock Slide number 2 is going to be double shielded. I think they might have a Tinkaton in the back. However, I realized Shiinotic with a shield advantage is actually going to be fine here. Even though we are completely walled in the charge move department, it really doesn't matter as we just deal so much damage with the Astonishes. They do bait with a Bulldoze, which is unfortunate. However, even with that bait, we still have the opportunity to make a catch, and the opponent kind of forced to throw straight away as I did now have the energy for a Seed Bomb, but we catch onto Heliolisk. Gigaton Hammer gets the KO. We can fully farm them down. They actually swap back into Oink alone. Doesn't really matter. We've got the Moonblast. Moonblast, of course, when it does connect, will get the KO, and the opponent has very clearly just exited out of the app here, wasting my time, which I don't appreciate. So eventually, we will be able to Astonish, farm down the Tinkaton, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's over there into the next battle. I see a Shadow Mightyena in the lead. So, not the best matchup for me. As you can see, they are dealing so much damage with those Sucker Punches, but we win CMP. I go straight for Bulldoze. Bulldoze, unfortunately, does not get a debuff. So, at this point, of course, I'm just going to have to no shield. Shiinotic is going to hit for resisted damage with the Astonishes. Poison Fang, of course, going to hit for double super effective. And unfortunately, I get one turn bring in lag, which means I can't quite commit to a full Astonish farm down after shielding once. So, I swap into Landorus, and unfortunately, it's going to be the same thing here as I can't quite get a full farm down, but the opponent swaps into Altaria, and at this point we are going to look to overfarm ever so slightly and then fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide number 2, gonna be no shielded. They just fully sacrificed the Altaria. However, they have got me very low to the point where actually it's quite a comfortable Volt Switch farm down for the Fortress. So that of course is not ideal for me. However, I can fire off a Moonblast before they can potentially debuff me with a Rock Tomb, and they actually no shield the first move. And not only that, I end up debuffing their attack attack stat. So Rock Tomb, not going to deal too much damage here. Of course, I have to save my shield for a potential Poison Fang from the Mighty Enna. However, of course, if the game just worked the way it should do, I should have already taken out the Mighty Enna at this point. So unfortunately, gonna have to shield the Rock Tomb, which means they can swap back into Mighty Enna. They can reach the Poison Fang at the last second. Poison Fang takes us out there as it's double super effective. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent into the next battle. Going to see Talonflame in the lead. So a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Tinkaton. And here, I maybe could have thrown a Bulldoze first and then just committed to a very aggressive Mudshot farm down. However, instead, we're just going to come in, not throw any energy. Of course, we have to shield respect the damage from a Gigaton Hammer. However, now I can massively overfarm. Earth Power is going to be shielded by the opponent. Eventually, I will put them into range, but just a Rock Slide will KO despite being resisted. So I don't mind double shielding here. And now I will fire off the Rock Slide. I am very close to a second Rock Slide here, so if they do want to double shield, we could outpace them to the next move. However, they come back in with the Talonflame, absolutely fine with me. We go for Rock Slide grabs a final shield, so I go for that combination play, sniping with a Parabolic Charge, gets the KO there. Their final Pokemon, gonna be a Shadow Fortress, and I'm able to reach a second Parabolic Charge on the CMP tie, winning CMP, and dealing huge damage in the process. At this point, I'm actually not going to reveal my final Pokemon, as we're just going to come back in with the Landorus, get that Mudshot farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. I can see Tinkaton in the lead, so not the most comfortable matchup for me. However, I'm able to swap out and catch a Bulldoze onto my Landorus, where of course that is going to be double resisted and non-stab. It's also just not a very good move at all, so it hardly does any damage whatsoever. Then I'm going to come in with Altaria, and we've already seen Rock Slide does huge damage in this matchup. So the opponent going to shield the first move here. Rock Slide, number 2, going to be double shielded by the Altaria. That is not really ideal because now I have no way of fast move farming them down. Going to come in with the Heliolisk. They full send a Flamethrower. We're able to reach a Parabolic Charge, and I believe that might be a CMP tie. That is huge for me because now we're boosted in our defense. I can tank a Flamethrower. It's not going to be comfortable, but I can tank it nonetheless. I'm going to swap out straight away, and the opponent actually swaps at the same time back into the Tinkaton. Now they farmed up to a Gigaton Hammer. However, the opponent is going to bait with a Bulldoze. Not ideal for me, but we can still look to overfarm here and then full send a Moonblast. Seed Bomb wouldn't cut it, but Moonblast gets the KO despite being resisted, and again they're going to have a Fortress in the back. Now we can still outpace them here, and they will have to full send a Rock Slide here. Sorry, not Rock Slide, Rock Tomb. So we're now going to swap out into Heliolisk, and the opponent cannot commit to a full farm down. They're forced to throw. They go for Sand Tomb. They've got back to back, but this is just another Sand Tomb. That's resisted damage, doesn't do much damage. They can swap back into Altaria, but Dragon Breaths, they are double resisted. I'm taking no risks at this point. I realize Fortress does not have another Sand Tomb loaded. We can Astonish, farm them all the way down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's over there into the next battle. We're going to see a Hypno in the lead. So, I'm going to stay in this matchup initially here. The opponent is actually going to swap out into Gastrodon and make a huge mistake there. I don't know why I swapped into Landorus. Of course, we've got Shiinotic. We've got a Grass-type Pokemon. We could have easily come in with that. And unfortunately, they also bait me there with a Body Slam instead of full sending a Water Pulse. We go for the Earth Power. Earth Power is going to be shielded. And at this point, I feel like I have to double shield. And the opponent going to go for a second bait there with the Body Slam. However, honestly, it does get to a point where Body Slam probably will KO us, so Earth Power gonna be double shielded. They then swap back into Hypno, and I'm actually gonna come in with my Shiinotic. Now, don't really know why I'm doing this either. The opponent, of course, well, we can throw on CMP, and I'm gonna make another mistake here. I go for an undercharge. I'm looking to get a farm down, but I undercharge way too much there. I'm never going to be able to Mudshot farm them down. That is really unfortunate for me. So despite the fact that, yes, I am going to resist Thunder Punch, and they've clearly not got Ice Punch, it doesn't really matter as I'm forced to swap out, catch the move onto Heliolisk, and now I do expect the opponent to try and snipe me with the Gastrodon, so we're going to click on that Bulldoze straight away, and I do at least have a Bulldoze and the Earth Power loaded, so I can take out the Gastrodon. However, I have not played this game very well so far. We get the KO there. Their final Pokemon, going to be a Fortress, so that was a very winnable Pokemon in the backline. But unfortunately, just terrible gameplay throughout the entire battle there means I do end up losing that one. But GG's opponent into next battle. You can see, even though we do have good days here, we still have like the odd really badly played battle here and there. But either way, we're going to go for a Bulldoze, throwing before they can throw a Torch Song and boost up their attack stat. Now they throw it immediately, which is actually fine with me because now we will be able to reach a bulldoze before they do go for a full farm down. And I really don't mind grabbing both shields here, as the opponent is going to double shield, but I drop their defense, and that means now, whilst yes, they're going to be double boosted, they're only going to land a single incinerate worth of damage, which does quite a lot of damage to the Landorus, but we get the full farm down. We've now got a huge energy advantage, and I'm full sending another Earth Power. Earth Power does big damage there. I swap out. I tried to catch a Body Slam, or sorry, a Swift. Either way, they're going to swap out, bank the energy, but they come in with Ampharos, and I'm able to win CMP. Moonblast is going to eventually connect here. A little bit of lag, but either way, Moonblast takes out the Ampharos, and the opponent eventually will be coming back in with their Ferret, and they do still have quite a lot of energy. So at this point, of course, all shields are down. I'm actually going to swap back into Landorus, catching the charge move, as they do have back-to-back Swifts. Swift number 2 gets the knockout, but now I'm just one Astonish away from the Seed Bomb. We can outpace them very comfortably. Seed Bomb takes out the Ferret, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's when they're into the next battle, we're going to see a Tinkaton in the lead. They're going to say swap into an Orthworm. And this is fine with me. We can, of course, come in with the Landorus, where Rock Tomb is just going to be neutral damage rather than super effective, as we are a flying and ground type Pokemon. I go for a slight undercharge here. It doesn't really work out for me, as it does still get the KO, so I should have just overfarmed a little bit more than I did. Either way, if they come back in with the Tinkaton, which they do, we can still reach an Earth Power before they fully farm me down. Now I'm going to swap out here. I'm hoping they don't have a second Mud Slapper in the back. However, they're actually going to have the worst possible answer to my Heliolisk in the form of a Toedscruel, where of course the Volt Switch damage is triple resisted by the ground and grass typing, and even Bulldoze is also resisted by that grass typing, so not ideal for me at all, but we do have a pretty decent answer in Shinotic. So the opponent does have a lot of energy, of course. They're going to be on Wrap. Wrap is going to debuff my defense, but I'm able to make a catch of the second Wrap here, and I'm hoping, because I did get a debuff with that Bulldoze, maybe I can commit to a full farm down here. It's going to be close, but we do get that full farm down. That is quite nice for me. Now I've got 100 energy. I do overfarm still. I realize that it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to get to 3 charge moves, so I might as well try and throw on good timing, not allow as many Fairy Winds through, as realistically, they're going to win this by Fairy Wind farming me down. However, unfortunately, even by throwing on good timing, we still get farmed down anyways, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's won there into the next battle. Not a great lead matchup for me, but the opponent actually swaps out at the exact same time as me, which is quite surprising. I don't know if maybe they predicted me to swap out there, or if maybe they just planned on swapping out anyways, as maybe they're running an ABB style team. Either way, don't really know. Either way, we are going to go and full send the Moonblast, and unfortunately that is shielded. However, because they're full sending Sludge Bomb, I can still reach a Seed Bomb here, and Seed Bomb is actually going to be shielded. At this point, we're going to take a shield advantage here, as of course, Shinotic, not the best matchup into a Moongus, but now we can come back in with the Heliolisk, and I'm hoping that a shield advantage Landorus should be able to sweep this game. So Bulldoze, gonna get the KO there. We swap out straight away, and they've actually got Annihilate in the back. So this is all gonna come down to whether we can get the one-shot with an Earth Power. Earth Power, of course, not the best move. It's decent, but this is a Shadow Landorus we're talking about, and Earth Power gets the KO up against the Annihilate, and now we completely wall the Stunfisk, unless they're also randomly running Muddy Water, which would be crazy to see. But Earth Power barely doesn't get the one-shot there. That is honestly quite disappointing. Doesn't really matter though, as now we can actually come in and go for a triple resisted Volt Switch snipe with my Shadow Heliolisk, just for the sake of it, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's on there into the next battle. I'm going to see Hypno in the lead. This time around, when they say swap into Gastrodon, I will be coming in with the Shinotic. That is much better for me, as now we can no-shield a Body Slam. Of course, we are not threatened by a potential Water Pulse there. We can now go for a Seed Bomb, throwing on CMP, and Seed Bomb is going to be shielded by the opponent. So at this point, I'm going to shield here as well. I'm going to match shields in this matchup. I'm going to look to overfarm, but I don't want to throw on CMP, as I don't want to be caught. But in throwing slightly early there, we still get caught anyways, and they catch a Seed Bomb where it's double resisted onto their Fortress, so not ideal for me. However, this is the exact same team that we saw earlier, so maybe actually the exact same opponent. Either way, we're still playing this matchup a little bit better than we did last time, as here, we're going to no-shield. They go for a Sand Tomb. I think maybe they undercharged that there. I'm not really sure. Either way, we're also going to go for a slight undercharge, as Bulldoze now puts them into perfect Mudshot farm down range. Of course, Sand Tomb will now get the KO. We can come in, we get that perfect farm down, and let's see what they want to do. They're probably going to come back in with the Hypno, which they do. That's absolutely fine with me. I know that they're on Thunder Punch and Shadow Ball. However, regardless, I'm still just going to shield whatever they throw, as of course, they are still one away from a charge move on the Gastrodon, so if they try to snipe me, I'm swapping back into Shinotic. I'm able to make the catch there. Body Slam gets the knockout. I can now overfarm here. I don't quite think a Rock Slide resisted damage will KO, so we full send the Earth Power. Earth Power gets the knockout, and I'm still able to reach a last second Rock Slide before they can Fusion Farm me down. Rock Slide takes out the Hypno, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. I can see Shadow Heliolisk into Shadow Dragonite. So the opponent is going to be eventually swapping out of that matchup and into a Turtonator. Here, I didn't throw it on the best timing here, but honestly, 4 turn up against 5 turn, especially when the opponent swaps out at an awkward time, it does make it quite difficult to actually time perfectly. But luckily for me, they're not on Brutal Swing, which means we get the perfect farm down there, and we're going to come out with quite a lot of energy. We actually get to back-to-back Rock Slides before they reach a potential charge move of their own. Rock Slide number 1 grabs their first shield, and of course they're gonna have to double shield here. So Rock Slide number 2 is gonna grab the final shield, and Shinotic is going to completely wall their energy. Of course, they could run like Hurricane or Hyper Beam, that would be crazy, but typically it's gonna be Super Power and Thunder Punch, maybe Dragon Claw. Either way, they are all at least resisted or potentially double resisted, but their final... Ooh, excuse me there, just burped. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Licky Licky. Here, I'm able to reach a Bulldoze. Could have gone for Parabolic Charge. However, Bulldoze, luckily for me, is going to drop their defense, which means a Seed Bomb will barely get the knockout here. However, unfortunately, despite the fact that I just mentioned Shinotic is going to completely wall the Dragonite, Dragonite just does not care, as Superpower, non-stab damage, resisted, still gets the knockout, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's when they're into the next battle, I see a Toedscruel in the lead. So not a great matchup for me. I swap out into my Landorus, and I'm actually choosing to stay in this matchup. So I'm just going to no-shield a Wrap as we can tank that. Not super comfortably, but of course, these Mud Slaps are still double resisted. Whilst, yes, they're now dealing more damage up against us after they've dropped our defense. I can grab a shield advantage here if they do want to maintain alignment. And clearly, they don't have a great response to Landorus. Otherwise, they would have swapped out, preserved their Toedscruel, sorry, for my Heliolisk. At this point, we're just going to no-shield this as they're going to go for a Wrap, and I could look to shield once and go for a full farm down, but actually, you know what, I don't want to use my shields just yet. Instead, I'm going to go straight for Seed Bomb, get the knockout, and now I swap out immediately. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Haunter, and that is really unfortunate for the opponent, as we are, of course, double resisting the Shadow Claw damage. We can actually shield once, commit to a full farm down, and that should be game over. The opponent likely just going to concede the match at this point. We go for Bulldoze. Bulldoze. Well, actually, never mind. I think the opponent has just sort of rage quit out of the app. Again, wasting my time. Like, guys, there is literally a button on the top left of your screen. If you're going to lose the game, just press that button, man. It's so annoying when people do this because it just takes so much longer. But either way, we take out the Tinkaton and we take that game. Oh, I forgot to cut this out. But either way, we did go 5-0 in that set, so that's really nice. Eventually, we're going to catch a Lapras here. Into the next battle, we are going to see Heliolisk into Togetic. So this is going to be a really good matchup for us, as the opponent is probably eventually going to swap out. They swap into Earthworm, and we're going to come in with the Landorus. And again, we don't need to shield the first charge move here. Rock Tomb is going to hit for neutral damage. It is going to do quite a lot of damage, but it doesn't really put us into the range where they can Mudslap farm us down. Again, we are going to look to overfarm here. We throw the Earth Power, not on the best timing, but I don't expect a shield, and we can still reach a Rock Slide into Togetic coming back in. So Rock Slide is going to be no shield there. They do go for a full farm down, but that's fine with me. They now swap out into Tinkaton, and honestly, this should already be game over. We can go straight for Bulldoze. Bulldoze, gotta be no shielded. We drop their defense. The opponent recognizing that it's just gonna be a fast move beatdown, and so they just concede the match. See how that was so much easier than just not like rage quitting out of the app there? You can just press that top left button. Either way, into next battle. GG's to that trainer, by the way. We are going to see a really bad lead matchup for us once again. So we swap out into Shinotic, and I'm going to shield the first charge move. The opponent is, however, going to bait with a Bulldoze. Not ideal for me, however, still not the worst situation to be in. I go and full send the Moonblast. Moonblast is going to be shielded. Here, I could have thrown on CMP, however, I actually did not expect them to throw straight away. But they full send the Gigaton Hammer this time around. We come back in with the Heliolisk, and at this point, I think I'm just going to no shield. Of course, Bulldoze is still super effective damage here, but now I'm going to swap into Landorus, and they actually swap back into the Stunfisk. This is absolutely fine with me, as of course, well, they go for a Mud Bomb there. That is definitely not the right play. That is double resisted. Discharge is just single resisted, but either way, Earth Power gets the one shot, and let's see what they want to do. They come back in with the Fortress, and here I am full sending another Earth Power. I realize they probably will shield because they want to debuff my attack stat, so maybe I should have baited with the Rock Side, but now we are going to shield here. The opponent's actually going to go for a Sand Tomb, and here, honestly, I did not expect them to throw straight away. I was hoping they would maybe try and catch a move onto the Tinkaton, so I didn't throw straight away. Here, I commit to a full farm down, and we also don't quite get that farm down either, so I made a couple of reads. Both of them ended up backfiring, and unfortunately, we end up losing that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle, another really bad lead matchup for the Helios. I feel like either we have a really good lead matchup, or we lead into something that triple resists the electric typing. But either way, we swap into Landorus. I should at least grab a shield advantage here, as the opponent is going to respect the damage from a potential Earth Power. Unfortunately, just barely not able to reach a second one, so we go for Rock Side, and Rock Side still does respectable damage there, but honestly not a great position to be in. As of course, Helios completely useless into the Toad Scroll, or Stunfisk, I actually can't remember which one it was. Either way, they're going to swap back, and it was a Toad Scroll there. But because they swap out, we can now align the Shinotic, and again, we can no-shield that first wrap. It's not going to deal too much damage here. Of course, yes, it does drop my defense. However, that's still fine with me. We can now full send a Moonblast, and Moonblast is going to be no-shielded. It gets the KO, and let's see what their final Pokemon is. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Unnovan Stunfisk, and this is a great position to be in. Of course, yes, I am debuffed, so I'm taking decent damage here from the fast move pressure. However, we're still in a great position, as now we can just safely shield up a Surf. All I need to do, go for the full farm down. We've got a Seed Bomb bank, which means the opponent, they have to just no-shield this charge move, but it's a Bulldoze. It's super effective. It takes out the Stunfisk, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.